Hello guys, just want to record a tutorial about the hand sculpting we did today. Okay, you don't have to do this every time, but I think it's good practice shape-wise, because the concept of creating the hand it's kind of like how traditional artists are thinking when they're doing, even though they don't use the same workflow, but that's what's in their head when they are doing that. Anyway, so let's start with the cube and then make it a polymesh 3D, and then we can make it oops, let me draw a transpose line here and then drag the middle, or drag the top and then put it to the middle and then maybe drag it back a little bit. So let's say this is the wrist. Let me go to the geometry and then data mesh, and let's just do 32 data mesh. Alright, and then I can of course smooth this. Let me go change the material to something simpler and just smooth it. Okay, so here you see I'm not really adding any detail. What I'm doing is having the this shape at least there. So you can consider the wrist as a cube for now. Alright, so for the palm, all we have to do is duplicate this one, and then let's go to the top view and drag this new one downwards. And if you compare the width of the wrist to the length of the palm, you see there the length of the palm is the width of the wrist will be a 2/3 of the length of the palm. Okay, that's what we measured in class, so something like that. Alright, and then of course the entire palm will look like a square, a even square like that. Let me move it over here. Okay, and also the hand is slightly lower than the wrist, and it's also tilting down like that. And one more feature will be it's thicker, so I'm using clip curve to, oh sorry, it's thinner at the end. Alright, so I'm just gonna clip it like that and then dynamesh it. Okay, another feature will be it's curved in the middle, so I can draw the transpose line here. Okay, and then drag the middle circle while holding down the Alt button. That will bend it. Okay, let's just bend it up and maybe drag it down a little bit, and then of course just smooth. Okay, so it's curved like that. Alright, another feature of the hand is you want to find out where the highest point is. In this case, it's gonna be where the middle finger is, so there, that's the highest point. Alright, and the other parts are just getting lower. So I'm just gonna use two faces to represent that. Okay, so when you're thinking about the structure, you can think of it using this kind of way, just planes to represent it, although you don't have to do it every time like this, but this way it's easier for you to find out the correct proportion. Okay, like that. So one face and then another face. Alright, so for the thumb part, it's gonna be more like this. So if you cut two lines like what I'm doing here, and then maybe drag that little corner out, and that's where the thumb grows out from here. Okay, and of course it's lower, so let me just use my edge polish to push the faces in, to push it down a little bit. Okay, and then dynamesh. Alright, so that's the top. You got two faces, one going this direction, another one going that direction, and then the highest point will be where the middle finger is. Okay, now for the bottom one, and what I always try to do, if I'm really gonna do it seriously, I'm gonna find the 1/3 of the entire length and then draw another line, a curved line to 1/3 of this line. Okay, one more line from the middle to 2/3 of this line, and then another line from 1/3 of that side, and then go to the where the pinky finger is. Okay, I have those 3 lines as guide lines to help me find out the proportions, meaning I actually just imagine where the lines is, and then so the first line I draw will be the highest point of the thumb muscles. Okay, there you have other ones there, and I'm just gonna make a flat plane from there to the center of the palm. Okay, so if you draw back the lines, that's one of the lines, that's another. Okay, so you have one face and 2 faces to represent the bulge of the muscles that are driving the thumb. Okay, just simplify it. That's easier for you to understand. It doesn't have to be this way all the time. When you start adding detail, of course it will be smoothed out, but for now it's just easier to understand things this way. So another one will be this one. Okay, and you see the line I drew before, right? That's the contour of that. Okay, so if you look at it from this view, you will see the palm, the thumb is much bigger than the ones on the other side, and that should be what the bottom looks like. If you really want to give it more detail, you can make a nice fade out there. So the lowest part of the palm will be this line. Everything around it will be just a tilted face connected to the high ground of the palm. Okay, so you got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then you got 2 mountains, 1 little valley, and that's pretty much it for the palm. Okay, so don't overthink it. There are details, but we can always add those details later. Now the thing is, this is not a straight line, so you want to give it some curvature. Okay, the bottom part is slightly bigger. Okay, so the last thing you want to do before you do the finger is you want to give this part a nice curve like that, because the finger are not growing from the same flat line here. They're growing on a curved surface. Oh, one more thing, this curved surface is slanted, so it's not straight this way, it's actually slanted that way instead. So I'm just gonna use my edge polish to push the top ones in a little to give me that slanted result, so the fingers are growing out this way. Alright, let me just dynamesh it one more time. So that's the basic shape of the palm. Right, so let's start creating fingers. Okay, now I will start with the middle finger here. Just mask the area of the middle finger, flip the mask, and then use move to drag it out. Okay, the length of the middle finger is almost the same as the palm. Right, and then of course dynamesh it, and then I want to work on it only. I can go for BSC, that will give me the slash circle, which is not true, BSI for a slash curve, and then I can slash a curve there that will give me 2 polygroups. And then what I can do is just go to the split, and then I can go for a group split to split my model into the palm and the finger. Okay, working on the finger, I'm just gonna make it looks like this kind of shape first, because that's how my finger looks like when I extend them to the extreme. And then from this angle, I'm just gonna make this middle part bigger, and then gradually make other parts bigger. Okay, now the actual area that you do have the joint will be actually going down. Then I mesh it. Okay, of course you can try to give it some wrinkles there if you wanted to. And then for the tip of the finger, you want to have a slight bigger area, and you can use edge polish to push in the area for the nails, and then you can also just draw out the nail. Of course, if you think you need more subdivision level, which I think I do need some, I'll go to the Dynamesh and then make that maybe 64 if that's better for you to sculpt more detail. But I generally don't want to go too much higher because I think I'm still in the stage of trying to figure out the big proportion, which more detail will be just distractions. Anyway, so the nails, okay. I won't try to sculpt this finger to the perfect, detail and then duplicate it. I will just, sculpt it to the correct shape and then just start duplicating it, because after all, if you're doing realistic ones, I don't think all the fingers should have the same wrinkle and same size of the nail or all kinds of stuff. So I don't really care if I have to redo or do multiple times on the details. So it's just, you don't really need to do that, or you have to do that, sorry, you have to do it differently to make it look realistic. So don't bother make it too perfect. Alright, so this time it would be better to just looking at your finger before you try to imagine, try to creating something that doesn't really exist, because you don't really look at a real reference. I think that's particularly true for some of the students like me. I just don't like looking at references when I was first learning sculpting or painting in general. So I always inventing stuff, which is not cool actually. So you want to look at references as much as possible. Okay, so that's one of the fingers I'm happy with. Okay, the middle finger, and then let me just drag a transpose line using move tool and holding down control and drag a new one out. For my index finger, it's gonna rotate it that way, and also it's gonna go down a little. Oh, no, way down a little. Okay, also it's rotate out a little bit more, and maybe it has to be not that long, or I can just scale it in. Alright, so that's the index finger. Okay, I think everything is okay. Then let me just duplicate that one for the other one, which is the ring finger. Just need to rotate it. So different people have different sizes. Some people have longer ring fingers, some people have longer index fingers. So I guess it's depending on different people. So I'm not gonna give you a standard for that. Just look at yours, okay, or look at the reference you have. I'm gonna make the middle finger, the ring finger slightly longer than the index, and then eventually for the pinky finger, okay, just rotate it a little bit more, and then scale it down. It's gonna be actually much smaller than other fingers. In my, if you look at mine, mine is like this only reaches the second segment of the ring finger, so it's pretty small. All right, maybe not that thin. So let's give it more volume. Alright, you want to have gaps between fingers. There are gaps between fingers, especially when they're spread out. Okay, now last finger is the thumb. If you're lazy, you can just duplicate again from the fingers you already have. But right now they're all in one polygroup. You can go to the polygroups, and then there's auto group. That will give you different groups, and then you can holding down control while in the move mode, holding down control and click on one of the fingers, it will mask other fingers. Okay, then you can hold it down Control and drag it out to duplicate it. Okay, let's move it there first, and then maybe one more transpose line, and I'm gonna rotate it this way because the thumb is facing down, facing to the side, and not quite facing down. Okay. One more thing about the thumb is you have one last segment, so drag that in. Okay. Rotate it back later. Okay. Another thing is it's going down like that. The entire position of the thumb will be lower too. If you look at your hand, it's actually just lower. And then of course the size has to be bigger. Let's drag it in a little bit more, and then let's go to the if you want to make something bigger, you can also go to deformation and then just drag the size up. No, not working. Maybe inflate to make it bigger. If you look at your finger, I'm not sure, but my finger is really not that much different. So my thumb is pretty close to other fingers thickness wise, but the size wise, the last segment of the thumb will actually have bigger shape, and then that's actually not the first segment. Here you can see is actually not that much big. So a slight change on the detailed shapes. Okay. Alright. Cool. So when those are all there, you should feel the hand having a decent proportion. If not, you may want to change stuff. If there looks comfortable, then you can move on to combine everything back together and start sculpting details. So just go to the sub tool and then select the top one, which is the wrist. Okay, let's just go merge and merge down and merge down again, so they're all merged together, and then let's just dynamesh them all together. Now the dynamesh resolution, let's see, in here I'm having 32. Let's make it bigger, 64, because that's the subdivision level of my my fingers. So let me just dynamesh them together. Alright. Now when they're together, then you can start actually adding detail, like here. Of course, all I have to do is just draw some strokes to blend them back together, some smoothing there. Okay, and here the thumb is not just connected that way, you have some tissues around it too. Alright. Also the index finger here. Alright. And then just other stuff you can start adding, like, you know, the joints around them. And I can do multiple dynameshes, of course. Okay. Making the connections, and it's also a good time to start actually looking at good photo references. It's really hard to remember all the details on the real hand, so some reference would be much better for you to figure out what's really going on. Okay. Alright, so let's see, let me go find some detailed hand. Okay, let's go to the hands and images, and you can just search for any random ones. I'm just gonna use maybe that one. Kinda like someone has more detail maybe. I guess this one is okay. Or just looking at your hand. Okay. Alright, let's just go back and use this one. Okay, it does have a lot of things. Just gonna drag it away to the other monitor and just use that for the back. So I'm just gonna start sculpting the back with everything I can see there. Some wrinkles like that, another wrinkles from there to the top. And some people have that go all the way there. Okay, so that's different for different people. Drag that line here, and then in ancient Chinese culture, you can look at their wrinkles on the hand and understand what kind of life they will experience. For different people, if there are a particular type which you have those two, this one and that one connected together, that's a really strong hand. That means you are really good at you know, the thinking or intelligence or this kind of stuff, or manipulation. Okay, but if they're far away, it's kind of weaker. Okay. Other little wrinkles in the bottom here and there, just a little bit. Okay, and then smaller wrinkles. I don't really have, so you only see this little thing here, this little bumping out thing when you really make your hand go really make a very strong fist. That's where you see this, so it's not actually that visible. Here I have another one on the other side, even lesser visible, and you have wrinkles around the wrist. Okay, so I don't really think you have to draw that one really strong. As long as you can see a little bit, I guess that's kind of okay. Alright, here you have the end of one of the end of one of the joints on the arm. You want that to be there. Other parts, let me just give them some smoothing, and then maybe just sculpting some joints out and some muscles too. You have learned anatomy already, so I think you already know all those little things I'm trying to do there. So I'm not gonna bother you by mentioning too much about those things. I'm just get on with it. Okay. Just getting on with it. There's some fat here. Some people may try and make this part really bulging out. I don't think that's bulging out too much, so I don't do too much there. But some wrinkles on the bottom of the finger should be there. Okay, and then other things on the thumb if you want to add. Here you can, there are two big clusters of muscles. This one is one of them. Another one is going this direction. Okay. So there will be like this portion is more stronger than that little part. So you have a line here, or a transition here, more or less like this. If you really look carefully on your hand, you see that little bulge, this little bulge here, if I really make that stronger. And then maybe you even have some wrinkle there if you're kind of old. I guess you're not old, so you cannot see that. Anyway. So here you have a little joint. Can't really touch that, it's really close to the skin. Okay, and other things, I guess it's all up to different people. Maybe they have different kind of results. So I'm just go looking at my reference and see what's actually in there. So some, teachers being dragged around. So here, when I'm really doing detail, start adding those wrinkles and stuff, I don't really have to do exactly what I see, because that's gonna be different on every people, and even it's not accurate proportion or even shape wise, that's okay, because you have the big proportion already figured out, so the detailed things are actually not that important. You can even invent all sorts of things, wrinkles there, as long as they are similar to the real ones. Doesn't have to be exactly like that. So I don't really think details are hard, because they don't have to be super precise, as long as they make sense, are looking good. Oh, very well controlled. Their strengths should be well controlled, so they are not too strong. That's too overwhelming to other important proportion shapes. So I'm just gonna gradually adding more detail for a little while. And one thing you can do, of course, is Control D to give it more subdivision level. That way you can start adding more detailed wrinkle on it. Smaller wrinkles, okay. Something at the bottom of the hand, there's always a lot of wrinkles, okay. Let's give it some volume at the top, okay, and then here. So when you're doing the wrinkles, yeah, just copy what you see. When people say don't copy, I think that's a good theory, because you don't want to just become a printer and just copy everything you see. But if you want to be realistic, accurate, then you have to copy. You're not a renderer. You don't know how to render stuff, right? When you're painting shadings, how do you know that your judgment or your brain calculation is correct? It's not correct. Copy is better in that manner. At least I think it's that way. So I would say half copy and then half from knowledge is the best balance. You don't want to just imagine everything in your head. There are so many things you don't know or not quite sure about. You don't want to be trying to figure everything out by just using your brain. So copy when it's needed. Fingers, okay. Use clip polish. Oh, sorry. Use edge polish to polish it here. Okay, the wrinkles on the finger. Let me look at mine. Just some lines actually. Some random lines. And give them some volume. Okay. And then smooth them out a little. Okay, and just keep doing that for the next. Actually, it doesn't have a next. Alright. Some other wrinkles. I have one on the back already. Just keep adding those little wrinkles. You can go crazy about those things as long as you have time and you're happy, which sometimes I don't really happy when I have to do detail. They're just boring job actually to me. So I personally don't like to do too much detail. I got bored when I have to do those. But people enjoy seeing a lot of detail though. So nothing is easy. You don't always have fun when you're doing stuff. It's not always about having fun, isn't it? Anyway, see, I'm just gradually adding new winkles and stuff. So I guess that's actually all I want to go over in this tutorial. The rest of it is just adding new winkles. You don't want to see me go through everything. It's just boring job. Okay, smooth, and sometimes you go back and forth on the one thing, just smooth it one more time, and gradually you have the entire thing all polished with fancy details. And that's when you stop, and then, you know, eventually go retopologize it. Okay, so that's normally how the hand is created. Not normally, actually, it's the way I think this is a better way of helping you to think and understand, you know, what's important, what's the big shapes, and then how you gradually go from big shapes, understand the big proportion and curvature, and eventually go to the final result like this. So you'll see that the tricky thing is having the correct proportion, and you have to understand the proportion, and you know how to represent them using simple shapes to start with when you're sculpting them, so that way you will end up with much accurate proportion. Okay, then that's gonna help you to get the final results much faster, because the proportion is something that you cannot get away with. It has to be correct, otherwise no matter how much detail you add it in to the end, it will just look fake, because the big shapes proportions are not correct. So you want to be able to at least understand it. And understanding shapes is not, you know, you look at anatomy, you understand all the name, you remember all the name of the muscles. Okay, that's one of the good things you can have, but eventually it will be determined by how much do you understand the planes, the big structures on the hand, instead of just, you know, naming of muscles or where they're connected. And also, I also believe that a good artist can sculpt anything they never seen before, even though they don't understand the anatomy, because they know how to observe shape, they know how to analyze and understand the shape they see, even they never saw it before. They don't have to, you know, when they see something, they don't have to actually break it into parts and analyze it for years to understand the actual anatomy from the inside out to really be able to do it. I don't think that's true, but for human though, it's good practice. Because it is a complex shape, and the underneath structure helps a lot. Okay. Alright. So that's the hand sculpting, and okay, I'll stop this sculpting part right here, and if you're interested in, you can keep doing more detail, looking more references, and then just go crazy about it. You know, don't worry. As long as you keep the big proportion correct, you shouldn't destroy anything by just trying to add in more details. Just making sure to make them too strong. They all have their strengths. Not every winkle are the same, you know, intensity. I should say intensity or something. So you see the intensity here, that's the strongest one, right? That's also kind of strong, that's not that strong, you know. These should have variations. Anyway, so that's the hand sculpting. I hope you have learned something here. And you can apply the same technique, of course, on other things. You understand those things, you understand their big plans and shapes, you gradually go to smaller details afterwards. All right.